It's the best of times and the worst of times in the U.S. auto industry. Sales are at an all-time high, but so is nervousness over what President-elect Donald Trump may do to punish carmakers for trying to make cars cheaply in Mexico and sell them in the United States. Here at the Detroit Auto Show, carmakers are tiptoeing through a minefield. No one wants to say anything that will set off yet another tweet storm from Mr. Trump, who has threatened one carmaker after another with punitive tariffs on cars made in Mexico and imported to the U.S. Some, like Ford, have already caved into the pressure and canceled Mexican factories. Others are rushing to repackage old investment as new U.S. expenditure. Anything to shield themselves from that tweet that torpedoes their share price.
Automakers are on pins and needles because this industry really doesn't like uncertainty, especially in an industry where you have to plan your products 4 years, 8 years from now. It's already hard enough to figure out what consumers want. Then to add a layer of politics in is challenging. If President Trump does put in tariffs, which is going to be quite difficult to do, we could see the cost of vehicles go up because a lot of parts come across the border. A car company might decide, I'm not going to sell that vehicle that I make in Mexico in the U.S., eliminating a choice for a consumer.
Fiat Chrysler found a clever way to preempt a Trump tweet attack. On the eve of the auto show here in Detroit, a city whose fortunes rise and fall with those of the car industry, Fiat Chrysler announced $1 billion in new investment and 2,000 new U.S. jobs, cleverly timed to placate Mr. Trump. The president-elect responded with a celebratory tweet. But CEO Sergio Marchionne says the industry still needs much more clarity.
I think it would be unwise that tariffs would be imposed on Mexico production without two things. One, without a very clear recognition of a grandfathering system that says anything that has been invested before this next date needs to be protected, because the downside of that choice is the substantial economic damage to the organizations that have done investments there. The other one, as a minimum, is a phase-out program where effectively you introduce tariffs over a period of time to disincentivize Mexican production. But both of those things require a runway that's long enough to allow for the reversal of the delocalization exercise to be carried out. You don't impose them overnight.
But privately, many of the world's biggest car makers seem to be adjusting to the new normal, a world where years of investment planning can be undone by a sudden tweet. They're persuading themselves that no matter what Mr. Trump does, he's promised to act swiftly to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement and impose tariffs on Mexican production. They will still be able to adjust to it.
For the moment, I think the only thing we can do is wait to see what are going to be these policies, what are going to be the decisions, and in function of this, adapt our strategy if necessary. I don't think there's no reason to adjust anything for the moment.
Car makers understand that the new president has a political base to satisfy, a base that wants more American jobs. And they're rapidly thinking of ways to help him reach that goal. For the world's automakers, politics is always a factor, no matter where they do business. And they're ready to do what they can to help Mr. Trump satisfy his voters, many of whom are their own auto workers.
Even though the labor costs might be slightly higher, businesses are going to see a savings in the reduced corporate tax rate and the reduction in regulations. It's going to allow a lower cost product, and I think it's going to balance out. So I think all in all, it's going to be great. Everything Donald Trump has suggested and intends to do is going to be positive for the auto industry and the manufacturing industry in general.
These are the people who helped put Mr. Trump in office against all the odds, and they're counting on him to make the American auto industry great again. The world's car makers won't want to get on the wrong side of America's new president on this one. Patty Waldmeyer, Financial Times, Detroit.